Welcome to the Anime Audiophile Podcast. Enjoy. Itachi Shinden, Book of Dark Night. Chapter 6 Part 3. This can no longer be tolerated. The first to open her mouth after hearing Itachi's report was Itachi Koharu. An interrogation room in the Hokage residence, used when the four ninjas who comprised the village executive were receiving critical reports. Four black chairs were set up at the long table, and seated in them, from right to left, were Mitokado Hamura, the third Hokage, Itachi Koharu, and Danzo. Itachi had requested an emergency meeting to report on the current clan situation, which he had been investigating together with Gozu and Mezu in the year since he had been made team leader, as well as the details of the incident at the meeting the previous day. According to Gozu, who had remained at the meeting after Itachi left, the details of the plot had been made known. The date for the coup d'etat is 10 days from now. The plan was to begin with the Hokage attack team led by Yashiro. If they are calling for revolution and intending to usurp the government, then we will be forced to declare the Uchiha traitors to Konoha. Koharu, stop. Don't get ahead of things, Hiruzen chided the imperious older woman. Danzo stared at him with a cool gaze. But, Hiruzen, he said, quietly. The Uchiha clan can no longer be stopped. In which case, in order to avoid chaos, we must strike as soon as possible. That also means the children, who know nothing of this plot. That is not something to be said in front of Itachi. Hiruzen snapped, as Itachi simply watched. The fox mask on his face looked out into empty space. On the surface, Hiruzen's words could have been taken as a kindness, but hidden in them was also proof that the Hokage was thinking the same thing as Danzo. Hiding ugly things from people's eyes like this was the true nature of this village. And if it comes to civil war with the Uchihas, it will be no simple matter, Hiruzen continued. We must have some kind of plan. Exactly how seriously has he thought about the Uchihas? Itachi had his doubts about Hiruzen. Despite his concerns of civil war, he hadn't once come to speak directly with Fugaku and the others. And it was Hiruzen who had removed Shisui from his regular duties and allowed him to maneuver in secret. On the surface, he spoke as if from the heart, but in making Itachi independent as a team leader so he could continuously monitor the clan, Hiruzen was doing the same thing as Danzo. The discussion continued. It is a race against time. Danzo around looked at the others. We must strike first, before they can act. If you and I join together, along with our Umbu, for a surprise attack from behind, it will soon be over. The Uchiha were our comrades in arms. Rather than force, I'd like to try talking with them. Why didn't you show that determination sooner? It's too late now, Itachi murmured to himself. I'll think of a plan, Hiruzen told Danzo, and then abruptly turned his eyes on Itachi. Itachi, buy us as much time as possible. Every little bit helps. Wasn't there a man who had already given his life to buy that as much time as possible? The old people here had simply wasted the years Shisui traded his life to produce, instead of working out some concrete plan. The coup was in 10 days. What would buying any more time for these old people accomplish? Understood. We're counting on you, Itachi. Distress bleeding into it, the hoarse voice of Hiruzen, forced to go against his own true feelings, sounded hollow to the ears of Itachi. Hiruzen might have said all that, but when push comes to shove, he'll protect Konoha. He's that kind of man. And when push does come to shove, he'll have to take firm measures as the Hokage, Danzo told Itachi quietly, as they stood in the courtyard of the Foundation mansion. Danzo's soul hadn't stopped shaking since hearing Itachi's report. The coup, in 10 days. The time had come at last. He would finally be able to remove the biggest obstacle threatening the security of the village. Danzo trembled with glee at being able to personally put an end to the history of enmity that went back to the founding of Konoha. Itachi listened silently. He was a clever boy. In the interrogation room, he had seen it in Hiruzen's attitude, so replete with self-righteousness and hypocrisy. He had already grasped Danzo's true intentions. Or rather, the idea had sprouted in Itachi's own heart when his brethren accused him of the death of his good friend Shisui. That idea was now simply overlaid on the image Danzo had spent long years drawing. Yes. The two of them standing in that spot at the moment were of one mind. Whether it turns into a war or not, Danzo began calmly, looking at the silent Itachi. At the moment the coup occurs, the fate of the Uchihas will be annihilation. The plan the Uchihas had put together was simply too crude. Swept away in a flood of emotion, they overestimated their own power. To him, their plan was like a sad little poem written by a sentimentalist despairing of this world and ending his own life. He did find it a little sad that the genius Itachi had been born into such a sorry clan. But no one could escape fate. At the moment he was born in Uchiha, Itachi's path was set. The path of destruction. Danzo readied himself to scatter the bait. Including your little brother, who knows nothing of all this. But if it's before the coup, there is a way to save your brother. At least, Itachi might have done it even without the bait. That was how strong the faith of the boy in front of him appeared. He had tried so very seriously to realize his outrageous dream of eliminating war from this world. That sentimentalism was the Uchiha clan. Given that he held this anti-war conviction so firmly, perhaps Itachi would have accepted Danzo's proposal even without the bait of his younger brother's life. But Danzo was the sort of man who took every precaution. And Itachi's brother's life, in compensation for the extermination of the Uchiha, was too good of a deal. What on earth did Itachi think of a cowardly act like threatening his younger brother? His face was frozen, impossible to read. The boy did not so much as twitch. This was the time to strike. If he had the leeway to inquire into Itachi's mental state, then he must strike without stopping. Once it actually happens, your brother will learn about everything. If he sees his clan obliterated by the ninjas of Konoha, he will come to nurture a desire for vengeance on the village. First, focus Itachi's thoughts on Sasuke. Then turn Itachi's eyes away from his brethren's obliteration and give him a just cause, in the name of saving his little brother's life. Once that happens, there will be nothing left but to have your brother die. Is that a threat? Itachi was indeed not to be dealt with by ordinary means. No. I want you to choose. Push it. Will you side with the Uchihas, carry out the coup, and be destroyed with your clan? Or will you side with us in Konoha and obliterate the Uchihas before the coup, leaving only your brother alive? From Itachi's actions up to that point, it was unthinkable that he would side with the clan. So then, why was he in such conflict over it? Was even a man of Itachi's caliber afraid of the infamy that would come with killing his clan? Whatever we have to do, we must get this situation under control before things descend into chaos, for the sake of the village. This mission can only be given to a double agent for both Uchiha and Konoha. There is only you, Itachi. Itachi himself would have known that. If someone from outside the clan were put to the task of annihilating the Uchihas, the other clans in the village would be dissatisfied with the village officials. If people started to suspect that whole clans would be purged if they were determined to be a liability to the village, the situation would become untenable. Which was exactly why the annihilation of the Uchihas needed to be done by someone in that clan. A mentally troubled boy killing his family and his clan, this was the way to get the situation neatly under control. Itachi, this is likely a painful mission for you. However, in exchange, you will be able to make sure your brother survives. Since the Hokage residence, Itachi had said almost nothing. Even at that moment, he was staring at Danzo in silence. Anguish. Even as he had the thought that this was not a fitting word for this boy, Danzo felt in Itachi's silence a surge of emotion that could even have been sorrow. I feel the same as you about the village. Danzo took a small breath before uttering his final words. Will you accept this mission? As if no longer able to endure the feelings that threatened to crush him, Itachi closed his eyes and stuck his chin out slightly. He turned his back and started to walk. Danzo stared, without moving a single muscle, until the departing Itachi disappeared from sight. As if to pour his own passions into him, Itachi pressed his forehead to the place on the cliff Shisui had leapt from and pressed his eyes tightly shut. In his field of view, now shrouded in darkness, visions popped up and disappeared. Corpses. Rain. Father. And me. Itachi was 4 years old. As the enormous conflict known as the Third Shinobi World War was drawing to a close, he had faced the battlefield his father brought him to. He still remembered clearly the mountain of dead bodies, no longer identifiable as ally or enemy. None of the corpses had been seeking their own death. Faces frozen, stretched out in terror or sadness, they seemed on the verge of calling out the futility of it. The young Itachi could do nothing. He had simply stood in the middle of the countless ninjas who had met untimely deaths, and cursed his own lack of power. Ever since that day, his thinking had changed completely. Fighting was foolish. War must never happen. No matter how the darkness of people tried to darken him, this thinking had turned into light to illuminate the path he was to go down. It was why Itachi had made it this far. Even after the blow to his heart after learning of his father's plot and the clan's desire for battle. Even when his best friend had faced his own untimely death, torn between the village and the clan. Even if he ended up bringing about the demise of the clan with his own hands. H&GH, a sob slipped out from between his clenched teeth. Trickling along his closed eyelids, tears spilled out and wet the dry rock. The tears he had never shown anyone. Itachi had lived his life with the vow in his heart to become the best ninja in the world, and for him, the act of crying was an act of defeat. Eliminating all fighting in the world was synonymous with becoming the best ninja in the world. He had no need of weakness on the road toward his outrageous dream. His dream was too big to be realized unless he was always strong, always facing forward, always walking intently toward his goal. And yet, his tears would not stop. 12 years of life in this world. Itachi had almost no memories of crying. He had been a reasonable child from the time he was very little, so he didn't cry and trouble his parents. He hadn't cried when Tenma was killed, and he had activated his Sharingan. Memories of crying. 4 years old on the battlefield, and one more. The day he had killed Shisui. That time, too, it had been in this place. Shisui. Itachi wondered what on earth Shisui would have said if he had been alive there. Obliterating the clan. Would Shisui have forgiven him? Probably not. Shisui would have tried to protect the clan to the end. In which case, they would have ended up enemies. Maybe it was fortunate that they parted that day as friends. Right, Itachi had already made up his mind. He had had a feeling, somehow, that this time would come from the moment his friend died a year earlier, and he lost hope in the clan from the instant those evil feelings sprang up in his heart. The insurrection of the clan, chaos in the village, and then civil war. Other villages would invade to take advantage of the ruined Konoha. Fighting begot fighting, and a new shinobi world war would break out. At the center of this chain of hatred was the Uchiha clan. You should stay true to your thinking. Fight, be confused, be lost, and come through that to find your answer. And once you find it, make your decision, and do not waver from it. Find your answer, and be ready to follow through. That is determination. His father's words came back to life in his mind. Determination. The decision he was about to make was a parting from the clan. And a parting from his father. He wavered. He had been lost all this long time. He had also always stared at Shisui's back and regretted his own foolishness. Maybe there was a better way. But this is the best move, Itachi murmured, as if to convince himself. The chill in his own words made his heart constrict painfully. A lamentation with the darkness. When he returned home that day, his family was already asleep. The Foundation mansion, Danzo's living room. I'll do it. The only one who heard Itachi's words was Danzo. He stood up from the chair behind his desk and approached Itachi with heavy steps. I felt certain you would say that, he said. The hand he put on Itachi's shoulder was ridiculously cold. "Don't worry about your brother. Even after you disappear, the village will take care of him." Itachi was going to slaughter his clan. Even if it were a mission, it was the sort that could never be made public. To the outside world, Itachi would be a criminal who had gone mad and murdered his entire clan. Naturally, he would not be able to stay in the village. At that point, he had no choice but to believe even the words of a man like Danzo. The day will be the day before the planned day of the coup. How does that sound? Itachi had correctly understood his intentions. The mission this time was a surprise strike. A sneak attack to wipe out a clan that suspected nothing. The night before the coup, the members of the clan would refrain from going out in order to build up their courage and make their preparations. It was easy to see what they would do. Additionally, their thoughts would be full of the next day's action, so it shouldn't even occur to them that they would be ambushed. Understood. I'll tell Hiruzen you're desperately trying to reconcile them with the village. Itachi had made his decision, and he had no intention of continuing this chat with Danzo. He had some ideas about his brother, too. Everything was after this mission was over. He would take on the crime of murdering his clan for the sake of peace in the village. He despaired at himself for not being able to come up with any other way. This whole time, he had been thinking about how he would ever be able to apologize to Shisui after his friend had entrusted him with the future. A decision born of failure. That was the truth. Nothingness. No matter how he dug around in his heart, no emotions appeared. Whatever he saw, whatever he heard, his heart was dead. What will I do about Uchiha Kagen? The person from the clan who Gozu and Meza played. Oh, Danzo opened his mouth, looking as though he had just remembered them. One of them will have to die. If you see Kagen, go ahead and kill him. Are you sure? The ninjas of the Foundation do not fear even death for the sake of their missions. Gozu and Meza would both gladly die. Do not hesitate. If anyone other than you is missing from the Uchiha clan, your actions will have been for naught. At that time, I won't be able to guarantee your brother's life, Danzo added threateningly. He apparently had serious doubts about Itachi's determination. The almost pathetic suspicions of a man who did not know the word trust. Understood. Good. Itachi turned his back to Danzo and started walking. When he put his hand on the door, he heard a voice from behind. Best if we do not meet again before your mission is complete. This is the last time I will speak with you as a ninja of Konoha. You have worked hard for the village up to now. I thank you. Ignoring Danzo's uncharacteristic words, Itachi slipped through the doorway and closed the door behind him. I will be a Konoha ninja until I die, he murmured to himself in the hallway, gloomy even at midday. Hiding from the monitoring cameras of the Umbu, Itachi stared at the grounds of Nakano Shrine, visible below him from one of the trees in the grove. He chose one with a good shape, so as to hide himself among the dense foliage. The coup d'etat was drawing near. 3 more days. There was something he absolutely had to take care of before then. Itachi had been watching over Nakano Shrine ever since he left Danzo, and he had the feeling he was about to see the fruits of that labor. The door to the main building opened, and a man stepped out and scanned the surrounding area. He had white hair. Yashiro, Itachi murmured the name of the man walking furtively toward the gates. Without waiting for him to disappear, Itachi came to stand in front of the closed door. He easily opened the lock and stepped inside so quickly the cameras couldn't see him. Don't go anywhere just yet, he prayed silently to the man who was his target. He deftly pulled up the 7th tatami mat from the far right, revealing stairs that led to the basement. The secret meeting place. He ran down and pulled open once more the door he had closed a few days earlier, the hateful voices of his brethren raining down on him. In the very back of the meeting hall, there was a stone monument with the history of the Uchiha clan carved into it. The man he was after was standing in front of it. A man in an orange mask. Uchiha Itachi. It's been a while. It was their first meeting since the time Tenma was killed. For years since then. You've grown quite a bit, the man in the mask said, spreading his arms. Did you instigate them? That's no way to talk to someone. I simply taught them a little thing about the history of their clan. What are you up to, Uchiha Madara? Oh. The man in the mask put his hand to his chin. You never know when someone's going to come down here. And the compound is watched by those fellows in the village. How about we go somewhere else and talk a little? All right. Hearing this, the man's body was sucked into the holes in his mask and reappeared behind Itachi. Follow me. The man climbed the stairs up to the main shrine and went outside. Perhaps he knew the precise locations of the clearly hidden cameras. He headed straight out of the compound as if choosing a path in their blind spots, and then easily slipped past even the eyes watching the village to step beyond it. Once they had gone a little ways from Konoha, the road that led to Sinna came into view. There was a small shrine in one corner, and a vast forest spread out as if to guard it. Once he had cloaked himself in these woods, the man stopped running. The moon hanging above the grove of cedar trees was slightly distorted, on the verge of being a perfect circle. How do you know who I am? The man in the mask asked, putting his hands on his hips. Behind those words was the acknowledgement that he was indeed Madara. You made it past the Konoha guard, and were looking at the secret stone of Nakano Shrine. Only the Uchiha know its location. He had first noticed the man's existence when he was on duty monitoring the clan for the Umbu. Since then, Itachi had seen that shimmering in space within the compound any number of times. It was of the exact same nature as what he saw when Tenma died. Which is how he knew that the man before him was interfering. I looked into you. I took the opportunity to investigate what kind of person you were, how you thought. As a result of which, Itachi had learned that the man before his eyes was Uchiha Madara. 70 years ago, Madara had supposedly died after a fierce battle with the first Hokage, Senju Hashirama, but no one had actually confirmed that death. With the attack on the daimyo of the Land of Fire 4 years earlier, and his sniffing around the clan compound, Itachi had sensed Madara had an attachment to the village that was related to the Uchihas. And then, that evening, he had learned that Yashiro was meeting with him, and Itachi's suspicion turned into certainty. Well then, this will go quickly, the man in the mask started. So, you know I am a member of the Uchiha clan, and I harbor hatred for both Konoha and Uchiha. Uchiha Madara have resolved to fight back against the Senju clan when they tried to discriminate against the Uchihas. However, the people of the clan had ostracized Madara, who saw a battle, and betrayed him, although he had been their leader. Struck by despair, Madara had fought Hashirama alone, and then allegedly died. He would no doubt have had held an extraordinary grudge against both Konoha and Uchiha. If he had indeed been pushing Yashiro and the radical faction toward a coup d'etat, it would have been to get revenge on Konoha. However, Itachi could not allow him to take this revenge on Konoha. I have conditions. He cut through Madara's arrogant attitude. I help you get revenge on the Uchiha clan. And in exchange, you don't lay a hand on the village. Or Uchiha Sasuke, too. He would force the point of the spear turned toward the village back toward the clan. Madara laughed slightly, unable to hide his surprise at Itachi's forcefulness. And what if I were to refuse? He asked, his masked head cocked to one side. His face devoid of all expression, Itachi offered the answer he had prepared. If you refuse this request, then you and I are enemies. Could you kill me? It's not a matter of whether or not I could. I will kill you. He had already taken a step down a road that would not allow him to turn back. He did not hesitate. Silence enveloped them. There was no bloodlust in either of their auras. They were exchanging dangerous words, but they both acknowledged each other as opponents. You seem to have the wrong idea. That brat is not a friend, or anything of the like, Madara said, raising his palms to the heavens. That brat was Yashiro. I tossed several stones. It just happens that one of them landed in a very good place. it wouldn't be a bad thing to change my mind now. Actually, the small openings of darkness in the mask caught hold of Itachi and did not let go. Choosing you seems more interesting than those small fry in the village. Small fry, Itachi agreed in his heart that perhaps they were small fry. In the next instant, Sasuke's face popped into his mind, and he felt a sharp pain in his heart. I like this tale you tell. I'll come along for the ride. Itachi shifted his eyes as if to ignore the hand that was extended. End of part 3. Thank you for listening. Remember to like and subscribe for lots more.